Hey, what is up, comic culture? It's your boy CBM in the house and the place to be. And welcome back to my comic book channel, Indie Key Comics, where we collect, review, and invest in indie key comics. And if you like what you hear, please click like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and hit that notification button because I will be dropping comic book content on a daily. And I don't want you to miss a thing. Because believe me when I say I can talk comic books all day, every day. With that said, today we're going to be covering 3 books that are related to the Disney D23 Expose big announcements. So let's get to this unboxing, this video started, and let's talk comic books. The first comic we're going to cover is Disney's Haunted Mansion. Now, at the Disney D23 Expose, they made an announcement that on March 2023, dropping their second stab at bringing this ride to life on the big screen. I don't know why they're releasing this movie on March of 2023. You would think they would want to release it this Halloween or at the very latest October of 2023, but for some reason they're releasing it on March 2023. The only thing I could think of is this spring break during that time, and maybe they figure a lot of people will be going to the theaters. But either way, I think Disney's learned their lesson. They put a lot of money into developing these movies that are based off of the rides at their theme parks. Just look what they did with the Pirates of the Caribbean, for example. So I think this has the chance to become a Halloween classic. Something like Hocus Pocus, that's just meant for the family and just really fun to watch. And at this point, I've come to almost love everything Disney has done and put out. I mean, I can't explain how much I love all the Marvel stuff they've done. All the Star Wars stuff they've done a great job with for the most part. So I've come to never doubt them. And I think if they can make a really good Haunted Mansion. Now they did make another Haunted Mansion. It came out in 2003 with a very lackluster premiere, to say the very least. I think it just bombed. Eddie Murphy was not funny at all in that movie. You're not going to see Eddie Murphy from Beverly Hills Cop in that movie. That movie flopped and it just bombed. But this comic here was really good. The artwork was really good in it. I think there was only like 9,000 printed, so it had a very low print run. And I think there was only about 8,000 or 7,000 ordered by retailers. And out of that 7,000 or 8,000, I'm sure not every single copy sold. And I'm sure there was a lot that was sent back to the publisher and just destroyed. And this comic book came out in 2005. I think it was a bunch of short, small anthology stories. And I believe there was 6 issues in that series. This comic is really rare, really hard to find. I only have issues 1 and 2. I was never able to collect and find the whole series. I'm sure I could find it nowadays on eBay. And I could probably find issues 3, 4, 5, and 6 for maybe about $10 or $15 each. So it's still gonna cost a pretty penny to collect the rest of the series. And issue 1 over here, just wanna look up real quick what it's going for on eBay. Right now, I don't think you should buy this comic during all the hype. I think you should wait a little bit longer because you have a lot of time left, before this movie comes out. Like I said, it's not coming out until March of 2023. So you still have a lot of time to get your hands on this book. And I do think the price will go down on this book a little bit. There'll be some price correction on this book. But like I said, I think the trailer for this movie looks really good. And I don't doubt Disney. When it comes to Disney, I don't doubt them at all anymore. Everything they do just turns into gold. there's just no doubting them anymore at this point. I mean, just look what they, like I said, what they've done with Marvel and Star Wars and Pirates of the Caribbean, and I can just go on and on how many successful, you know, series and brands they have out there. But I would wait until the value of this book goes down a little bit, because there are some serious high prices on this book. First of all, I want to say before I get into the prices of this book, there's an era variant of this book where it has a double cover, and a 9.8 of that book right now goes for $549 on eBay right now. And there's only one of those on eBay. So I don't know if this is the double cover era variant. I'm gonna have to check after this video. I really hope it is. But let's look into some of the prices on eBay for this book. Right off the bat, there's a CBCS 8.5 going for $69. There's a CGC 9.8 of this book going for $300. I want to say this book right here that I have is anywhere from a 9.4 to a 9.8. There's some raw copies going for $100. A VG copy going for $52. Some just really high prices for this issue 1. The one for $109. But I want to say, if you can get this book for anywhere below $100, you want to stay below $100. I would say anywhere between $30 and $50. You're still getting a really good deal on this book, and I think it's for that price. You're still on time to jump on board investing in this book, because if the movie is, if they make a really good movie, just hit a home run with the movie. Anything related to this movie, any kind of collectible or anything like that, is just gonna have value in it. It's gonna go up in value, and it's gonna be highly sought after, especially something like a comic book. So I recommend getting in on this book now while you can. Hopefully you can get in on it for $30 to $50. I think it'd be a great investment. Again, I would not tell you to invest in a book that I personally would not invest in, and that I personally do not have in my own collection, and that I did not invest my own hard-earned money into it. So again, I would only recommend it if I thought it was something worth investing in. And with that said, let's take a look at this book. Okay, like I said, this book came out in 2005 after that terrible 2003 Eddie Murphy movie. But it came out, it was published by a company called SLG. And this book appears to be a 9.4 to a 9.8. It's got sharp corners. It lays very flat. There's no sort of rippling or waviness in this book. The spine, of course, is free of any stress or tick marks. I'm always looking to avoid that. And besides that, the book is perfect. It's in perfect condition and it looks gorgeous. I'm glad to have this in my collection. And I got this book when it originally came out for $2.95. I said it was published by a company called SLG, and I never heard of that company before or after. But that cover is gorgeous and it's flawless. Like I said, the artwork is great. From what I recall, it was like a horror anthology, like a bunch of short little mini stories, but I only have up to issue 2. Issues 3 through 6. They were really rare and hard to find comics, but here's issue 1. And here is issue 2. And issue 2 even had a lower print run. And I believe issue 2 is worth about maybe $20 to $30. So what I would recommend doing is trying to get the whole series, issues 1 through 6. Try to get it as cheap as you can. And then when that movie drops in March of 2023, and if it pops off and it does really well, and it's a great movie, and like I said, becomes a Halloween horror classic, you know, something fun you could watch with your family, try to get the whole series. And if the movie pops off, you'll be able to sell issue 1 for what you paid for the whole series, and you'll probably still be able to make a nice little profit. And then you'll have issues 2 3, 4, 5, and 6 is selling, that'll be all completely profit. So if any kind of collectible related to that series, to that brand, is just going to be worth money. And anything Disney is always worth money. It always retains its value. And to me, it always goes up in value tremendously throughout the years. So invest in that comic, in that series. And for the second book we're going to cover, we're going to be covering Indiana Jones. And I want to start off by saying, who doesn't love Indiana Jones? I can't express how much I love Indiana Jones. I mean, watching that movie as a kid was a treat. It just sparked the imagination. I was like so intrigued by the whole like lifestyle of, like, I wanted to be an archaeologist after I seen that movie. You know, and I think there was a lot of kids out there that had the dream of being an archaeologist after seeing that movie. He was like half archaeologist, half grave robber. And he just made it so cool to be an archaeologist. And I just loved it. After watching those movies, I was like so into like history's ancient, you know, mysteries. And I got into things like, you know, Egypt and the pyramids and, you know, pharaohs and all of that stuff. And I don't think I would have been into any of that stuff without Indiana Jones. Like, I loved Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skulls. That was probably my favorite one. And that's hard to believe because I love, you know, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And those movies are just classic. I can't express how much I love them, and I can't express how much I love Harrison Ford as an actor and how he brings like so many characters to life, and how much an influence characters like Indiana Jones and Han Solo were in my life, you know, as a child. They were just, it was just, those two characters was such a part of my childhood and such a huge influence on my childhood years. And I always loved how he played the fence between like being a good guy and, like, you know, like I said, in Indiana Jones, he was part archaeologist and teacher and part grave robber. And in Star Wars, he was Han Solo and he was a good guy, but he was part, you know, scoundrel and smuggler. So I always loved how he played that fence of, you know, good guy and, you know, just this really cool, badass, you know, type of dude. But with that said, let's get to these comics. I already saved you the trouble of watching me cut these packages open and stuff like that. I love unboxings, but I hate watching like people, you know, have to struggle on camera to open up a package. So let's see what we have here. We have Marvel's Comic Super Special Issue 18. This is the first appearance of Indiana Jones in a comic book, and it is the adaptation of the 1981 film Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. And Indiana Jones 5 should premiere in theaters June 30th of 2023. And the reason why I say it should premiere on June 30th of 2023 is because that movie has been delayed since 2019, then it was pushed back to 2020, and then due to the pandemic, it was pushed back to 2023. So hopefully there is no more further delays with that movie, and I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be in Harrison Ford's last Indiana Jones movie. So you're gonna want to get to the theaters to see that, and you don't want to miss that, that's for sure. And I think that's a pretty big announcement. Came out in 1981, and it is the first appearance of Indiana Jones in a comic book. And I've never had this book before in my collection. I've never had a chance to look inside of this book. It is not what you would call your average or normal size comic book. It is definitely a comic book magazine. And some people wouldn't count this as the true first appearance of Indiana Jones in comic book form, because they would say this is a magazine with a comic book. And I don't know, I don't get it. I don't really care about the shape of the comic book. We all know there's all sorts of different sizes and shapes of comics. But I would say, I would consider this the first appearance of Indiana Jones in a comic book. No matter the size or it's considered a comic book or a magazine, as long as it's in comic book form inside. But looking at this, I do have one bad, I would definitely call it a stress mark on the upper left-hand corner, and a few tick marks that go down the spine. But besides that, the comic book is in gorgeous condition. The corners are pretty good. Book is from 1981, and it is in great condition, excellent condition for its age, now that I'm thinking about it. And let's just check out some of the prices on eBay on this book right now. Okay, on eBay right now, there are some ridiculous prices for this book. $215, $199, $165, $165, $250 for a 3.0, a CGC 3.0 is going for $250, $199, $415 for a 9.0, a CGC 9.0, $350 for a 5.0, $285 for another raw book, and I'm not going to go down the rest of the list, but I do want to point this out. For a 9.6, a CGC 9.6 of this book, it is going for $1,295. An 8.0 is going for $1,200. A 7.0 is going for $800. Another raw book, $215, $140. Another 7.0 going for $800, $130. And that's pretty much the end of it. $285 again. Yeah, and that 9.6 going for $1,295. I did not see a CGC 9.8 of this book on eBay at the moment. And I want to say I jumped on aboard on this book when, I want to say as soon as Key Collector made the announcement that there was going to be an Indiana Jones 5 and it was going to be Harrison Ford's last and final Indiana Jones movie. And now is the time to make an investment on this book. And I think I paid $20 to $30 for it. $30 total with shipping and everything. And it just looks, I would say that this book is an 8.0 easily. To me, this book looks pretty damn good. I mean, and I can't wait to see what the pages look like. That's going to count for a lot when it comes to this book. But to me, they're looking like white pages, off-white to white pages for sure. They're definitely not cream or tan pages. This book aged very well, and I'm glad I have this. So this is truly the first appearance of Indiana Jones in comic book form. Thanks, Key Collector, for that information. I just love collecting with Key Collector. It's really helped the way I collect. Like, I can't express how many keys I've added to my collection due to Key Collector. And then, of course, I want to show off. Here's the further adventures of Indiana Jones. And I believe there was like 30 or 32 comics in this series. And here's issue 1. Let's see what Key Collector has to say about it. It was inspired by the classic characters in the series that takes place after Raiders of the Lost Ark. So this takes place after Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it's between movie part 1 and part 2. And I'm really fond of this series, this run of comics by Marvel. I remember reading this as a kid and I was like, oh my God, I've got extra stories about Indiana Jones. I've got extra adventures about Indiana Jones, and I get to piece together what happened between Indiana Jones 1 and 2 and what took place and what was he up to, what adventures was he on, you know, during those years between 1 and 2. And like I said earlier, I just love Harrison Ford and the characters he played and that he brought to life that really influenced me in my childhood and left me with a ton of fond, happy memories. And I love the characters that he played. Like I said, Indiana Jones was like part archaeologist and teacher and Tomb Raider and grave robber, and Han Solo was part good guy and part scoundrel and smuggler and heartbreaker. But I love the characters that he played and brought to life. And, Harrison Ford, he got all emotional on stage, and that made me start to think like, damn, Harrison Ford is, getting up there in age, and he's starting to look a little bit old and even act a little bit old. I never seen, Harrison Ford he's always Mr. Cool on every talk show he's on and every movie he plays in, and every character that he brings to life, he's always Mr. Cool and calm and just cool. He's always that badass dude. And to see him get all emotional like that made me start to realize and think like, everything doesn't last forever. And, none of us are immortal. We're not put on this planet to live forever. And, there's going to be a day that Harrison Ford isn't walking God's green earth. And that's going to be a god-awful, terrible day. And we're all going to miss him. And we all love Harrison Ford. We all have like a special place in our hearts for him. And I wanted something personal that I could hold on to, that I could look at and reflect on and read and have like further adventures of Indiana Jones to read and have like those stories that I could read and bring to life and just like celebrate his life and remember him by, and remember those characters he brought to life. So I'm just glad I have this. I plan on getting issues 1 through like 32 of this series. Here's issue 1. It's in great condition. Easily a 9.6 to a 9.8. There's nothing wrong with this book. It's flawless. There's a little bit of rippling and waving on the top edge over here. It can be pressed out. But on the spine, what counts the most is pretty flawless. There's no tick marks or stress marks. This cover is a little bit off-centered. That could probably be due to staple misplacement. But the corners are sharp and the edges are really sharp, top and bottom. It's just a little bit of waves. So press out. And then here is issue 2. And that's another gorgeous cover. I love that old school like artwork. I love that stuff from like the 80s. It's the stuff I grew up on. It's the stuff that got me into comics. Here's issue 3. And like I said, when the day comes and there's no more Harrison Ford walking this planet Earth, I want things to remember him by. I want the characters that he brought to life. Like I said, I can't wait for that movie to come out. It says it's going to be released June 30th of 2023. Can't wait. I'm really excited about it. And if you can get in on any of these books, like I said, you should be able to get this for 10 to 30 bucks. Issue 1 of Indiana Jones. I recommend trying to pick it up for about $15 at the most. And if you can get issues 1, 2, and 3 for like $30 and under, I'd say it's a good pickup. This book, I paid $30, but I doubt you're going to be able to get this book for $30 at this moment. And even when there's a price correction on this book, I think there's so much hype to Indiana Jones right now, so much love for Indiana Jones. How many people are waiting for this movie to come out? I even think when the price correction happens on this book, it's still going to be a really costly book. And I doubt you're going to find anybody that's going to want to negotiate on this book. It's going to be really hard to find anything below $60 for a good, one that's in good condition. But if you could find one for right now at $60 that's in good condition, I recommend getting it and getting it graded, because this is definitely a book worth grading and investing and putting money into. The things that brought me like happiness and that I'm like fond of and that I love, and I feel like his characters like even shaped me as a person. Like as a kid, it had such a huge influence on me in my life. And like I said, I spent so many hours watching Indiana Jones like movies and Star Wars. definitely was a huge influence on me as a kid and a huge part of my life. Okay, so let's move on to book number 3. And here today, the third comic that we're gonna cover, that's Disney D23 expose related, was the announcement of Willow premiering in November. Another series that I can't express how excited I am. I'm just anticipation for this series and how much I used to love watching Willow as a kid. A bunch of fond memories and like just pure joy and happiness. I remember as a kid when I found out that George Lucas also wrote this story. Yeah, I was like blown away by that, and I was like thinking like, man, why doesn't he expand this universe as much as he did the Star Wars universe? And this could be just as big as the Star Wars universe. That's how much potential I thought it had back then as a kid, and how much storytelling you could do with this, magical fantasy, story. And as a kid, I always wished that he would have done more with that. And I used to really love it. I would just play that VHS over and over and over again. And I would just watch that movie like on a loop. So I really did enjoy that as a kid. And I can't say enough about it. I saw the trailer. The trailer looks amazing. I'm really excited about it. And I've noticed that in the last couple of years, there's been a huge investment in fantasies like, Wheel of Time and Game of Thrones, which was just epic. And, it's been ongoing for how many years now? And Lord of the Rings is amazing. I think Willow's gonna be just as epic because you could tell that Disney spent the money. Disney learned their lesson. Disney realized, like, hey, you have to put money, good production, and you have to develop these characters, and you have to make the audience connect with these characters. And they did a really good job, I believe, with rebooting this series. And the trailer looks amazing. Like, it blew my mind away. It took me back to 1988. And let me show you this comic book over here, this beauty. This is when this comic book came out in 1988. It is a 3-pack comic book series by Marvel. That was issue 1, and here's issue 3. And issue 2 is in between issues 1 and 3, obviously. Here's issue 1 again, but this is how the original packaging, and this is how the comic book looked originally when it first came out in 1988. That's the best part about it. I just love the whole look, and it's been well preserved, and I love the condition that it's in. It's in excellent condition. The comics itself, they look to be like a 9.0 to a 9.6, 9.8. They don't seem to suffer from any damaging from the plastic. Sometimes the plastic makes the paper on the comic book age poorly. But there's no yellowing on the comic book. The white is really white on issue 1. Corners seem really sharp at first look. And there's no tick marks or stress marks on these books. That's for sure. I tend to notice that when you get books in these 3-pack from the 80s and you get it in the original poly bag, it tends to preserve the comics that are in them, and it tends to keep them in really good condition throughout the years. So I always aim to get, whenever the chance presents itself, I always try to get it in the poly bag if it came in one. And that's Willow, issues 1, 2, and 3. And those are just reprints of what I'm about to unbox. But I wanted to say again, the movie, I just used to love watching that movie. It brought me so much joy and happiness, and just watching it over and over. And it made me think Val Kilmer was a really good actor. I was excited about him, playing Batman and stuff. But this is Marvel graphic novel Willow, the official comic adaptation of the hit movie from Lucasfilm. And I would say this book is, this one also I paid $30 for it. And I would say the condition is about a 7.0, maybe a 7.5. But more likely a 7.0, I believe. But I'm hoping for a 7.0 on this book at best. The artwork, at first, it just looks amazing on the front and back cover. Look how cool that is on the back cover. Loving it. Oh my gosh. Makes me want to get this book graded and encapsulated. Yeah, this book will look great in a slab. There's the artwork on the front. I'm just going to check out the inside real quick because I'm really excited about this book. Oh, no, it's great. Really cool 80s artwork. Pages look pretty white. It's just a lot of spine wear. You could tell this book has been read over and over. I'm sure it belongs to some kid that loved reading this story and just read it 100 times, and you could tell there's a ton of spine wear. But it was the best condition for the best price that I could afford to pay and that I would pay for this book. Once the season premieres and then ends and the hype dies down, and there's gonna be a price correction on the book, and you'll probably be able to get the book for much cheaper than what it's going for right now. I would suggest waiting until season 1 comes to an end and see if the book goes any lower than what it is right now, because the prices on this book are also really outrageous at this time since the Disney D23 expose announcement and the trailer dropping, because the trailer looks amazing. And like I said, this show's gonna be on the same level as Wheel of Time, as Game of Thrones, as Lord of the Rings. It's gonna be on the same level. People are loving fantasy movies right now and shows, and this series is gonna be awesome. I always wanted a continuation and an expansion of that universe. So let's just check out the prices on this book right now. What are some of the asking prices for it? Right off the bat, $2.99, $109, $80, $149, $60, $59, $99. And I wanted to bring up this book, the price of this book on eBay also. I got this series for $30. And right now, you cannot find anyone selling this series, issues 1, 2, and 3, this complete run in the poly bag on eBay. You cannot find one at all. And I could imagine what the going price would be if someone was to drop this on eBay right now in the original poly bag. The last time I saw this comic book was in 1988 in a pharmacy on a comic book rack. And right now, it's raw for all three. There's people asking $269 for the complete 3, $169 for the complete 3, $75 for the complete 3, raw and loose. Issue 1 for a CGC 9.6 sells for $179. Here's another person selling all 3 loose without the poly bag for $71. Issue 1 for a CGC 9.8 goes for $349. Another copy of issue 1 raw and loose for $55. So this is a great investment. If you could find this for $30 or maybe even $40 to $50 in the original poly bag, pick this up. Go hunting for this book in the original poly bag. It is a great investment. It'll be a great hunt if you could find it in the wild. So I highly suggest investing in these Willow books. I love the condition of this book for its age. Like I said, I'm hoping that it would grade a 7.0. But I'm real happy to have this in my collection. And also real happy to, this is also gonna be a pain. It's a store. I don't know where I'm gonna find a place for these books. Look how cool issue 3 looks. So again, if you can get this for 30 to 50, I really suggest investing in it. In this book, the price is all over the place. It's just way too high. If you can find a good copy for like 30 or 50 bucks also, I suggest getting on it. Paying anything higher than $50 for these 2 books is a huge risk, because once the hype is over, once the season, premieres and ends and the hype is over and it dies out and there's a huge dip and a price correction on the books, there's a chance that they might go below 50 bucks. You never know. So why invest more than 30 or 40 or even 50 bucks at the most into both of these books? Because you never know when the hype dies down if it's going to dip way below, these crazy current asking prices. I definitely believe for sure that you always want to buy after the hype to save yourself a bunch of money. Because like I said, right now these books are going for in the hundreds. And I believe after the hype, you'll save yourself a lot of money. You can get one for like 50 to 70 bucks. That's what I would try to, that's probably the best you can do at this point, at this time. But I got these books as soon as the announcement was made, and I got the alert on Key Collector. And like I said, that comic book app has definitely changed the way I collect and invest. And it's definitely shaped my collection out and made it more valuable than it was before I discovered that app. So again, look for all 3 of these books. And if you like what you see in this video, please click like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, hit that notification bell, because I'm going to be coming out with comic book videos on a daily. And I've always got books that I'm speculating on, books that I think are worth investing in, books that I have in my actual collection, and books that I want to show to you guys and just show you that there's so much more to comic book collecting than just Marvel and DC. And even though I love Marvel, I love everything Marvel and stuff. So see you next time.